Hi, my name is Natosha Farrell, and I have two little girls. I'm married. We've been married for 8 years now. Was born and raised in Bay Roberts, moved to Ontario when I was 8, and then came back to Newfoundland about 5 years ago. So when Sierra was 12 months old, she started to walk with a little bit of a tilt, and I noticed things weren't really right with her. And people would say, "Oh no, Natosha, don't worry. You're just a first-time mom, and things are okay." And I said, "No, I don't think that that's the case. There's something a little off." This was in June of 2013, and then Sierra started to get a little bit tipsy. When she would walk, or she'd start to throw up, and it started to go from maybe once a week to every couple of days, and this progressed. And I would say within a couple of months I had taken her to about 9 different doctors. This included walk-in doctors, her family doctor. I had taken her to Sick Kids to get looked at, where they then referred me to a chiropractor. She was seeing a chiropractor for a while to see if they could help straighten her neck, as they thought this was what was called acquired torticollis. However, that was not working. In November of 2013 that year, I went to go to work that morning, and Sierra really got stumbly, and she almost fell on her way out the door that morning. I didn't make it to work that day, as I had to take her back to Sick Kids Hospital. I had called my mom, who was currently in Newfoundland. I was still in Ontario, and I said, what am I going to do? Sierra is really not well, and she's stumbling, and Mom had said to me, "Natosha, take her to Sick Kids and ask for an MRI." So I took Sierra to Sick Kids Hospital, and of course the doctor in emergency that day said again, "It's just a virus. She's going to be fine." And I said, "Can I speak to another doctor, please, just to get another opinion, as I really feel like she needs an MRI." And long story short, after that doctor did look at her previous file, they did see that she did have a tilted neck, and when she put all these symptoms together, her throwing up, she said, "Yeah, I think that we do need to order an MRI." So that's what they did. They did order an MRI, and about 9 o'clock that night, we did get the results of the MRI that evening that Sierra had a brain tumor. It was one of the worst nights of my life. I did call my mom here and told her that Sierra had a brain tumor, and that the next day she was going to have to go for surgery. And that night, my mom and my grandmother literally picked up their purse and went right to the airport. Thankfully, they did get there in time the next morning, as Sierra had to have that emergency surgery. It was so bad that evening, so when I did get the news, the head of neurosurgery called me from his house and said that, the way it looks really bad, and that the next day we're in for quite a long ride, as there was probably going to be quite a few doctors and nurses in the room for that surgery. So they did really try to prep me that evening. Thankfully, the next morning, as I mentioned, my mom and my grandmother did get there in time. My husband was there, of course, and they did take Sierra for surgery, which lasted about 10 hours. It was only the grace of God that got us through that, and prayers, and everybody from all over the world was praying. There was prayer chains everywhere happening for her, and we were hoping that the results of that tumor was not going to be cancerous, but unfortunately it was. We got the results back a couple of days later that it was a very rare form of brain cancer. It was called anaplastic ependymoma of the fourth ventricle, and it was not good. So this was November of 2013, and I had to meet with her oncologist, who advised us that, if the surgeon didn't get all of the brain tumor the first time, her chances of survival would go from 70 to 80% down to 10 to 20%. Now, he did think he got it all at the first surgery, but we did find out after the second MRI that unfortunately he wasn't able to, so now we had to go for the second surgery. After her first surgery, her brain wasn't draining fluid properly, so the doctor said, we've waited long enough. Unfortunately, we have to put a shunt in her brain. I had to prep her for surgery, and that morning when I went to go bring her down for surgery, they had to first complete an MRI to figure out where that shunt had to go. And my mom was in the room, and I said, okay, Mom, let's go, because we had to go down for that MRI. She's like, I'm not going with you, Natosha. And I said, what do you mean? You're going to send me alone? And she's like, she won't have that shunt. So I went down to the MRI by myself with Sierra, and she went in for that MRI, and right after the MRI, the doctor came out and said, her brain is, draining perfectly. She doesn't need to have that shunt. So I went upstairs with Sierra in my arms with a big smile, and I was crying, and my mom said, I said she wouldn't need that shunt. You just need to have faith. So after Sierra's first surgery, she was having issues swallowing. She had a tube down her throat where I had to feed her through a tube and basically listen for a pop through the stethoscope. And then after that, be able to feed her. We did that every 4 hours for months. She was also unable to walk after her first surgery. And after much prayer, she was able to walk that December. And so again, that was just another miracle there, because we didn't know what that was going to look like after the first surgery. So in January of 2014, the doctor, when he went in to go and remove the tumor, he wasn't able to get it all. He actually just sewed her back up and said, unfortunately, if I took any of this tumor, she wouldn't be able to walk, talk, eat. She would literally, what his words were, she would be a vegetable. So he left her, even though the doctor knew that, he left the tumor, and it was showing on that report it was gone when they had gone back. The doctors reviewed the MRI images again, and even though they said it was there, it wasn't showing anymore. And the doctor's words specifically was, I know they said it was there, but we can't see it anymore. And I just wanted to read that just to make sure I didn't miss that part, because it was so miraculous that, even though the doctor knew that, he left the tumor, and it was showing on that report, it was gone when they had gone back. I know sometimes the doctors would think that, Mom might have been a little crazy, but she would say to them, whenever we'd get a bad report, she'd say, very politely, thank you, but we're going to believe the report of the Lord. And it's just always something that we've, steadfast, and, we've always trusted God. And no matter what they told us, we knew that, God had the final say. The doctor actually walked in, and she was crying because they had no answer for Sierra. It was actually so unreal that they had the head of oncology at Sick Kids had connected with other doctors worldwide and had a meeting about Sierra, because they had no answers. They were like, we left the tumor, and it's no longer showing. They have no answer for her. I would run into doctors afterwards at Sick Kids Hospital, and even people who, don't have faith or maybe don't believe in God, they would still call her a miracle, because they had no answer for what had happened to Sierra. The doctor actually physically saw it, left it. It was on the MRI report, but when they went back later, it was no longer there. So they actually could not believe it, and that's why they had to have that meeting with other doctors, because they used to meet on Sierra's case once in a while, but the doctor that day who told me it's no longer, she's like, I know we told you it was there, but it's not there. She said they had to have a meeting because they could not believe what they were seeing. It really goes to show that God is still in the miracle working business. And, like I said, she is a 13-year-old thriving young girl. So we're super blessed and super thankful for God and everything he did. Sierra used to also go for MRIs every 4 months after her second surgery. That was part of her follow-up. Then she went for every 6 months. Then she was going every year, and she just went recently, about a week ago actually, and we just received, of course, the news that we already knew, that it's all clear. So this is Sierra. This is our precious miracle. She is now almost 13 years old, and it's been almost 11 years now since she was diagnosed and was healed from cancer. So as you can see, she is absolutely perfect. She is amazing in education. She has awesome hearing. She swallows very well, and she's a healthy young girl.
It makes me really happy when people call me a miracle. I'm very thankful for God for healing me.